All right, today we're going to dive into the core teachings of the Buddha, and we're not just talking about it as a religion, but really as a practical, profound philosophy for living, one that's been a guide for millions of people for centuries. So let's get right into it. You know, this quote right here is the perfect place to start. It just nails the entire philosophy. It operates on these two almost paradoxical levels. You've got these incredibly deep concepts that scholars could debate for a lifetime, right? But then, on the other hand, you have truth so simple, so direct, that even a child can get it. And that beautiful complexity is what we're going to explore today.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the core goal of the whole philosophy. Then we'll get into the how-to, the practical guide, which is the Eightfold Path. After that, we're going to look at the mental hurdles we all face, zoom out to the bigger picture of reality it presents, and then finally tie it all together to really understand the ultimate purpose.
Okay, so first things first. What is this all even for? I mean, before we get into the how, we really have to get a grip on the why. What's the fundamental problem that this entire way of thinking is trying to solve?
And there it is. So simple, but so powerful. The whole point is to end suffering, not to just put up with it or ignore it, but to actively bring it to an end. And in its place, to build real, genuine happiness. And the tools to do this, they aren't some kind of divine magic. They're our own actions and our own thoughts. It all comes from within.
So if the goal is to end suffering, how in the world do you actually do it? Well, that brings us to the Noble Eightfold Path. Honestly, you can think of this as the user manual for life, the practical, step-by-step guide to living in a way that actually leads to happiness.
And the most important words here are constant and consistent. See, this path isn't a magic pill or a one-time fix. It's a set of disciplines you practice every single day. It's a continuous process of learning and refining how you live.
So let's break down the first 4 steps. Right attitude. That's all about freeing your mind from things like prejudice and superstition. Step 2, living the highest standard. Just means actually applying what you know in your heart to be true and noble. And then we get super practical, controlling what you say and practicing right conduct, which basically means living a true, simple, and honest life.
The next 4 steps kind of build on that foundation. Step 5 is huge, the practice of harmlessness. That means not causing harm, physically or emotionally. Step 6 is perseverance. That's the engine that keeps you going. Then comes right thinking, where you actively point your mind toward wisdom. And finally, right meditation, which is the practice of really looking inward to understand yourself.
Okay, so that path seems pretty clear, right? But hey, if it were that easy, we'd all be enlightened. The teachings are very aware that there are these specific mental blocks, these illusions that get in our way. And this is really the crucial question, isn't it? The philosophy calls these obstacles fetters, like chains that hold us back. So what exactly are they? What are these common traps that keep us from walking that path freely? And here's the list. It's pretty fascinating when you look at it. So many are these deep-seated ideas we just take for granted, like trying to find salvation through praying to something outside of ourselves, or getting caught up in rituals. Then there are the ones driven by our senses, right? That endless chase for the next thing we think will make us happy. And of course, you've got the big ego-driven ones, like pride and hatred. But that very last one, the illusion of ignorance, you could argue that's the root of all the others. So here's why this matters so much. Getting past those illusions is not just some intellectual game. It fundamentally changes who you are. When you break those chains, doing the right thing becomes automatic. It's instinctive. You don't have to sit and think about it anymore. You just act from a noble place, because that's what you've become. Okay, so we've looked at the personal journey. Now let's zoom out a bit. What's the cosmic backdrop for all of this? What do these teachings actually say about the nature of reality itself, about life, death, the whole universe?
And that brings us to the famous idea of Nirvana. Now, this definition is so important. It's not a place you go to like heaven. It's a state of being that you achieve. It's this deep, profound realization of the absolute universality of the individual. It's finally understanding that your little, separate self is actually part of a much, much greater interconnected whole.
And this really drives home our role in all of this. See, the purpose of life is an active one. It's our job to work to overcome these illusions that keep us feeling separate. It is definitely not a passive waiting game. We are the ones in the driver's seat of our own enlightenment.
This distinction is just fascinating. There's what's called the phenomenal self. That's our ego, our personality, our body, the part of us that's born and, as it says here, dies again like grass. It's temporary. But the teaching says that hidden behind that illusion is the true self, the eternal, unchanging reality of who we really are.
So you might be thinking, how on earth do I have enough time to do all this work? And that's where the idea of reincarnation comes into play. It's not seen as a punishment or a reward, it's simply the mechanism that lets the soul continue its journey, life after life, learning and growing, and working to overcome those illusions until finally Nirvana is reached.
All right, so we've walked the path, we've looked at the obstacles, and we've seen the cosmic picture. Now let's bring it all home. Let's boil this down to its most essential, timeless takeaway. What's the bottom line?
And here we are, coming full circle, right back to where we started. The ultimate goal is just to keep this one simple truth alive, to pass it on from person to person. So, what is that truth?
This, right here, is the foundation of everything. It's a direct statement of cause and effect. And what it does is put the power and the responsibility squarely in our own hands. Our suffering isn't random. Our happiness isn't an accident. They are the direct results of how we choose to think and how we choose to live.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. If it's really true that our own thoughts and actions create our reality, our suffering, or our happiness, what does that change about how we live day to day? Is happiness truly the reward for right thinking? It's definitely something worth reflecting on.